All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're hopping into it. Game number 2. Now, we didn't quite get to catch game number 1, but we are going to be able to at least catch the finishing of the series. This is going to be from, I believe, as I tab out really quickly, the audio is going to cut out, the round 8. So the winner of this goes on to face off versus Happy for a qualifying match. But here we go. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the pink Zerg player from Invasion Esports. Give it up for Miniraser. And his opponent spawned down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, the red Terran player. Give it up for Clem, sitting up 1-0 in this best of 3. So tab one time more out again. I do want to again thank everyone who's tuning in over here for the BaseTradeTV coverage. I will say a couple of things as we wait for this game to get underway. It's nothing super crazy happening. We got a hatch gas pool coming out from Miniraser. We got a barracks expand with a Reaper opening. Oh man, so crazy, so different from a regular TVZ. No, it's pretty much the exact same as almost every other TVZ these days, especially on this map. Wouldn't be too surprised to see Reactor Hellions come out on Dust Towers, huh? Could we get some Reactor Hellions? Oh, please, give me some Reactor Hellions. Well, we actually do have a second Marine coming out pretty quickly, so I guess that's slightly different than sometimes we just see straight tech up into the Reactor, but I want to note, I do not have Twitch alerts set up, so if you are doing resubs or anything like that, if you're doing donations, I just will let you guys know in advance right now. And of course, if this comes up later on, if people ask, like, why didn't you do my shout out for anything? I'm sorry, I do not have Twitch alerts set up. That is just the way that things are going to be. But of course, I am also going to be pretty much solo casting this, in case you guys aren't familiar with me. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm just bringing this up just because I think I've seen a couple people in the chat saying like, oh, who's casting right now? Where Rifkin and Zombie Grub. Rifkin and Zombie Grub did coverage for the WCS, EU, and NA qualifiers yesterday. They cast for like somewhere between 10 to like 13 hours, and they are completely wiped out. They kind of came to me and were like, hey, we have to cast the EU qualifiers in like 6 hours. Can you just do it instead? I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. Absolutely. So now I'm doing it on 2 hours of sleep on very short notice. So do apologize if I'm making any mistakes, if I'm saying anything a little bit silly. Cut me a little bit of slack just today. You don't usually have to cut me a lot of slack. Usually you could just yell at me, but just today I asked for a little bit of slack. Regardless, speed going to be finishing up over here. The Reaper doing a pretty nice job so far. Able to get 1 kill and does manage to survive for a little bit longer. And at least lives long enough to see the third expansion go down. Almost manages to kill itself, and hey, maybe he'll get another Zerg kill. No, not quite able to do so. But of course, that Reaper's life was, of course, waning. But, well, here's something a little bit different that we don't usually see. Dust Towers, and we don't see the Reactor Hellion play coming out. We have the Reactor on the barracks, but it's not swapping over the factory. The factory builds a tech lab instead. We're going to be seeing that fast teching up into, it seems like, the probably the siege tanks. And just straight up Widow Mines being made right now as we get ready to see a Widow Mine drop coming out from Clem. Very interesting to see this little slight deviation. Miniraser are going to be coming in with the Overlord, going to spot out that tech lab in the factory. Even the Zergans move in, scout out the third expansion in case that Overlord doesn't quite catch a glimpse of it, as I guess I wouldn't have. But it does give full information to Miniraser for everything he really needs to know. He already starts up that first Spore Crawler in his main base. Going to start up a Spore Crawler in his natural expansion. Just getting ready to defend against the Widow Mine drop. And also getting up his Lair Tech. Of course, the drop comes in right around the time that Spore Crawler finishes up. 3 Queens ready and waiting to intercept this drop, though. And you can see that that extra additional scouting information very much paying off from Miniraser. Is really not going to be taking a whole lot of damage over here. Only really making 12 Zerglings as well. And that's, I've got to say, a little bit light for the defense, but it's working out quite well. Now, the drop still has the potential to move in over here to the third, but no, the Queens also intercepting them over there. And there's only 4 Queens out, so he's moving these Queens around, getting ready to intercept the Marines wherever they may be. Oh, a lot of the Zerglings going down over there, but getting a bit of damage done to the medevac as well. So, neither here nor there. Makes it a bit more difficult for those Marines and the Widow Mine and the medevac to actually move in and get a lot of damage done. Of course, the Widow Mine also going to be on cooldown despite getting 8 Zerg kills. But Spire comes down behind this, and Miniraser again has played fairly greedy, has really not had to make a whole lot of units. Made these Spore Crawlers, sure, made a couple of Queens, and made what? I think 12, okay, maybe 20 Zerglings total. It's been definitely a very, very light defense. Ooh, Medevac getting very low, and oh, the Widowmine betrays him. Kills off the retreating Marines. Liberator sieges up, and I believe it kills off a single Queen. I got a little bit too over-aggressive. Not going to be able to get on top of the drones just yet. Another Queen tries to move in. It looks like the Queen is going to be losing this fight, as it does have to retreat out. Survives with just barely a couple of hit points, but does shut down a little bit of mining over here from Miniraser. Not the majorest deal in the world. Not a ton of damage being done, especially since the Mutals are going to be coming out pretty soon. Oh, Miniraser starting to mine a little bit earlier than maybe he should be. Takes a couple worker losses that he didn't need to. Only loses a couple, 3 or 4 workers, so not the end of the world, but definitely could have gone out without losing almost any workers. So missed opportunity to have that perfect play. But we got Mutals now out. Baneling Nest is on the way. Of course, we do have Zerglings moving across the map, trying to get a bit of scouting information on that 3rd expansion, just confirming that it not only was built, but is now fully mining, trying to get a little bit of damage done, and maybe just trying to pull these Marines and confirm the location of them so you can move in with those Mutals. The Mutals do catch the drops on the other side of the map, but of course, more like the drops catching the Mutalists. As the drops do manage to unload in time. A couple of the Marines are going to go down to the Mutalists as they are on an all-out retreat back home, but I believe Stim is not finished up just yet. It's going to be finishing up in a couple of seconds, about 15 seconds. But it does make it a bit harder to deal with these Mutalists. It's harder to chase them down or get too aggressive about them. But we have Banelings finally being made over here from Miniraser. Ooh, maybe looking for an opportunity to get some worker damage done. Waiting for the big move out. Or just making them in his opponent's face and then retreating them all the way back home. Just saying, you know what? I know you're not going to move out. In fact, let me show the world that I know you're not going to move out and find these Banelings right now. Probably not his reasoning. Maybe was looking to get some damage done, but the Mutals didn't quite get the opportunity to move on in. In fact, where are those Mutals? The Mutals, kind of surprisingly enough, not really able to do any sort of form of harassment. Haven't really made their way into the main base. You can see, haven't made their way into the 3rd. Normally, these Mutals really do tend to be a bit more aggressive. But I guess Miniraser not, I don't know if he's not feeling the APM that to spare to use for that Mutals harassment without risking losing the Mutals, or if he's just feeling like he's going to be encountering some drop harassment soon. But he's been very, very passive with those Mutals, and that kind of has given Clem the opportunity to not really take any form of damage. He's not exactly, I mean, he doesn't have any reason to believe the Mutals wouldn't get aggressive, so of course he built these missile turrets. Of course he's preparing the defenses in all of his expansions and just being ready for the Mutals harassment. But of course now the Liberators are out, so it's going to be very difficult for those Mutals to get a lot of damage done. And finally they start to move in a position where you might say, oh, I think that they might finally be moving in to try and get some damage done, but no, probably going to be very difficult to make it work now. Liberators on the hunt for the Overlords. May end up fighting the Mutalists inadvertently, but no, not quite. We do have the big move out over here for Clem, though. At the exact right moment, Miniraser decides to move on in, trying to find this army. The Liberators do try to search around for those Mutalists as well, and if they find them, oh, those are going to be some very dead Mutalists. There's not a lot of other forms of anti-air available for Miniraser. Mutalists making the retreat, and burrowed Banelings were, burrowed was actually researched. Very, very cool. Does bait the Marines straight into the burrow. A very, very nice play. Gonna be able to pick off a couple more of these Marines. Loses, or gets very close to losing some of these Mutals. Loses 1 or 2 of them. At the same time, we had a couple of Zerglings moving on around, trying to get some damage done. Managed to get almost get a cancel off on that starport, but at the same time, Clem finds a nice position on creep. Gonna be putting on the pressure for Miniraser. Miniraser has a lot of Banelings and Zerglings ready and charging on in, though. Looking for an opportunity, maybe a little bit wary about these Widowmines, trying to set as many of them as off as possible. But here we go, Banelings moving in, some great Widowmine hits, killing off a decent chunk of the Banelings. And even though the Banelings get some okay-ish hits, the Marines do manage to kite back, but no, there's just a little bit too much over here from Miniraser. He does manage to clean on up. Oh, Liberators getting some good shots, finishing blows off on some of these Mutalists. A lot of the Mutals, oh man, if there was just one more Widowmine hit, if there was just a little bit more damage from the Marines on the Mutals, even just one more Liberator in the mix, that could have been a lot of dead Mutals, but not quite able to make it happen, not quite able to finish them off. Clem, though, establishes a 4th expansion, or at least gets up the 4th command center to get up that 4th established, excuse me. Of course, Miniraser, having defended his own 4th expansion, establishes a 5th expansion. His Hive Tech is gone. He's getting up that Ultraless Cavern and has some pretty decent upgrades to boot. 2-2 is finishing up for Clem to even out versus the 2-2 that Miniraser has. But with 3-3 potentially going to be on the way now. Adrenal Glands is coming up. The Ultraless Cavern. A lot of danger is going to be coming Clem's way very, very soon. As Liberators are pretty much his only real answer, and he lost a lot of the Liberators during that last engagement. Now these Liberators chasing off those Mutalisks once again as he tries to push on into creep. Maybe could scan to get some more of these active pre-tumors, make it a little bit easier for himself, but here we go. Big Surround coming in, and these Banelings are in pretty numerous numbers. Mutal's not in high enough numbers that I feel like there could have been a big lift up from the Medivacs and retreating on out, but not opting to go for it. In fact, the Medivac's starting to take some serious damage over here. The Mutals may even be able to get a couple of kills. Boost is on cooldown. He's going to lose a ton of these Medivacs. Every single one of the Medivacs ends up going down, and now Clem loses a ton of supply. Now Clem was up 1-0, so if he can find a way to somehow bring this back, he's going to be sitting in a very comfortable position, but oh man, that is some massive losses considering he also didn't really do that much damage to the work account. Kills off. Oh, actually, nice bait over there from the Overseer. Baits the Widowmine shot to make sure it doesn't go off on the Banelings or the drones on the low ground. But 5th expansion again is up. There's even some of these burrowed Banelings kind of sitting around the map as that extra little bit of fear that's going to be put into Clem's heart. And Clem's got to find some way to bring this game back and also deal with the Ultralists that are now potentially going to be coming out. We also have Corruptors on the way. We don't have a Greater Spire though, so it looks like the Corruptors are just purely to deal with the Liberators. So we'll see how well that goes. I don't think any Ultralists have been started. No Ultrals have been started. No Ultrals have been made. Well, +3 missile melee attacks is being researched, so has the potential to get into that. Chitinous Plating is also finally getting started, so looks like Miniraser a little bit busy with some of the engagements and everything. Hasn't really found the resources, and burrowed Zerglings en masse over at the 4th expansion. Maybe looking for a big attempt to get some damage done as the SCV transfer tries to come in or something. We'll see. Clem is starting to get closer and closer to maxed out though, and if there's one way that Clem can really bring himself back in, it's by just getting to that maxed out point. Even if he's up against Ultralists or Corruptors and everything, he is going to be sitting on only 56 worker supply, which was a bit of a disadvantage at first, but as it gets to the maxed out stage, he's just going to have more army supply. In fact, he's already sitting up 30 army supply right now. And now moving over here, looking for an opportunity to shut down that 6th expansion. We do have the Zerglings running on in, trying to get some damage on. A couple of Zerglings also burrowing at the same time. 6th expansion gets sniped off on the right-hand side of the map, and the Zerglings do mostly get cleaned up. Scan goes down, cleans up the remainder of those burrowed Zerglings, but here we go. Clem is not finished just yet. He moves on in, snipes off some of these spine crawlers. They're going to buy a bit of time. The Mutalisks, the Zerglings, and the Banelings all moving on in. Ultralists also coming in the mix, but where are those Corruptors? The Corruptors need to kill off as many of these Liberators as possible, but the Liberators are in a high enough count. They just obliterate both the Mutalisks and the Corruptor count. And now, even though there's a little bit of anti-air left over for Miniraser, I don't actually think it's enough. I'm sort of surprised that Clem decides to retreat out. But I guess you don't want to press your luck. You don't know if those next round of Corruptors are going to be coming out. You don't want to lose that very valuable Liberator count. That is sort of difficult to build up. Even with 3 Liberators coming out in time, Liberators take quite a bit of time to build. So you can see it's a full 43 seconds. Of course, getting up some of those Liberator upgrades as well. The +1 ship weapons, or sorry, +2 ship weapons coming out. And just using that drop to deny that next expansion coming out from Miniraser. And we're finally sitting at that point. Both of these players sitting maxed out, but we have a lot more army supply available for Clem. Still going to be getting up just another 10 army supply, but going to eventually be sitting up solid 30 supply up. And even with a really, really nice tech out for Miniraser and really great upgrades, 3-3 is finished up for both of these players. And of course, Zerg player with 3-3 upgrades and Chitinous Plating on the Ultralisk is going to be the more scary composition. Even with all the Liberators out, oftentimes the Ultras can just sort of walk past the Liberators. They just force the Bio Army to kite past the Liberator zones and end up doing a lot of damage regardless. So Liberators are kind of the weird defensive mechanism against the Ultras. Widow Mines have been surprisingly effective just because they deal so much big burst damage to their primary target. As long as you target fire them on the Ultralisk, it's not just the splash damage in the Ultras, they can do a lot. But oh, here we go. This Liberator count is out of this world. Nice splits trying to come out over here, but here we go. Parasitic Bomb gonna be doing a little bit, but the Vipers get sniped off before a whole lot more than just 2 Parasitic Bombs go down. A really nice split out from Clem as well. Doesn't end up losing a single one of those Liberators to the Parasitic Bomb, but here we go. Corruptor's getting a couple final kills on the Liberator count, but at the cost of the entire air army for Miniraser. At the same time, Ultralisk getting a cancel or getting a kill off on that 5th expansion. Big Burrow Baneling hit over there as a nice bait further back. Miniraser doesn't really want to engage without additional Zerglings and Banelings. Does try and bait his opponent maybe into some more Burrowed Banelings. Miniraser's Burrowed Baneling play, I mean, hasn't gotten the massive hits off that he probably wants, but it's been getting some pretty good hits. That Burrow has definitely been paying for itself. And he's been doing a very good job of just kind of baiting his opponent back into them. But I would say the big thing, the big damage that was done over there was Miniraser is denying that 5th expansion. Now we end up seeing the main base command center, that orbital command, floating all the way over to that 5th expansion, trying to establish it that way. There's a little bit of a weird graphic thing over here. It almost looks like the creep was still there, but looks like it is finally cleared up. Liberator still looking for opportunity to snipe off as many of these clumped up Corruptors as possible. I don't know, maybe even getting some of the Infestors in the mix over here for Miniraser would be beneficial, but, you know, it does get kind of difficult to control the Corruptors, target firing them down on the correct Liberators, the Ultras charging forward, the Banelings making sure they split, making sure that they don't just suddenly take a giant Widowmine shot to the face, and you start mixing in the Infestors, and of course you're trying to do the Transfuses on the Ultras. It can be pretty hard to control, and especially when you also have the mixing in of these Burrowed Banelings, so I don't really fault him too much for not going for the Infestors, but, you know, just a nice little addition that would make it a little bit easier to deal with some of those. Oh, well, Widowmine getting a couple of Zerglin kills over here for the counterattack. But here we go. A couple of Burrowed Banelings managing to burrow themselves, but of course there is a missile turret still around. It survives. Does give the detection to pick off those Banelings. This army is very stimmed to death right now. There's only 2 Medivacs in the mix, and this is going to make it very easy for both the Banelings and the Ultras to cleave their way to victory, but a lot of the Ultras just immediately evaporating. Oh my god, the damage from those Liberators just makes it not seem like Ultralisks are very, very resilient units. Oh boy, and a really solid defense over there from Clem. He loses some of the, or a lot of the ground forces, doesn't really have a lot of the Medivacs, but hey, he makes the defense work. Kills off some very valuable units from Miniraser, who has to expend quite a bit of his bank trying to remax, trying to get out some of those Broodlords. Now, of course, Clem did lose a decent amount of supply as well, but you have to remember, a lot of that was worker supply that he was sitting on, and he's not exactly mining on his 3rd expansion. He's really only mining off of half a base, just 1.5 bases. So he's okay with 41 worker supply. It's actually a pretty decent number for him. The big thing is his army supply is very, very close with the Zerg opponent, Miniraser, who is still getting up those Broodlords into position, moving them across the map, getting up some of the additional Overseers, getting some of the Zerglings back in position as he tries to establish a new base. But his drop harassment from Clem going to be causing some problems for that. At the same time, though, Miniraser wants to deny this 5th expansion with his whole main army. Oh, but the Liberators aren't all sieged up in the right position, as Clem is going to be a bit far out. The Liberators now moving on in. They're going to be engaging against the Corruptors. Queen's in the mix, though. Going to be laying down a lot of Transfuses on top of not only the Corruptors, but also those Broodlords. Broodlords getting a bit of damage done, and they do manage to push back a majority of those Liberators. Clem just does not seem like he has enough. He loses a majority of his economy. Here we go. The final remaining defense over here for Clem. Looks like Miniraser is going to be able to push on through. The final couple of Liberators get taken out. And I believe that Miniraser, despite not establishing this bottom right-hand base, I mean, he's still sitting on a decent economy. GG gets called. Clem is going to tap out. We're going to be seeing this game go to game number 3. Miniraser tying up the series. Oh, it says Funk over there. It's Miniraser. I don't know. Just, you can yell at me. That was my mistake. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. As I think that I forgot to set this up. But it is now sitting 1-1. Oh, I know what I need to do. Hold on. Let me flop these guys. Miniraser. We're going to be hopping to a short little break, though. Is ready to hop into game number 3. It's been like 20 minutes since I played the last set of ads. And I don't want Riff to yell at me for not playing any ads. So we'll be back in a little bit, guys. Don't go anywhere. You guys are watching WCS EU Challenger Spring Championship Qualifier. Yeah! I have been muted this entire time. Alright, well, don't worry, guys. You didn't miss too much. Don't worry. I realized it in only 3 minutes. I just wanted everyone who didn't enjoy my casting, to have a break from my terrible voice. Alright, so basically, guys, I did the intros and everything. I was saying we didn't get to catch game number 1 between these two players. We basically hopped into it over here. We have the double Reaper coming out from Clem. A little bit of a mix-up. We actually have additional Reapers coming out as the double barracks opening is here. Third expansion also coming out for Clem. So he's definitely not all-inning completely off of this. He's just looking to get a lot of damage done. And Frozen Temple is a very strong map for the Reaper openings. It can do a lot of damage. But here we go. Queen's moving around, looking for an opportunity to get a bit of deal with these Reapers. But I'm not sure if he's fully aware of how many Reapers are being made. Now the 4 Reapers out. And with a couple of grenades, he can actually push these Queens further off of creep. Gonna really make them quite vulnerable. Zorgan's looking for a full surround on these Reapers. The Reapers do have the grenades to use to try and break the surrounds, as well as get some nice splash damage done. But 2 of the Reapers have already gone down. Ooh, nice juke over there. I'm really a big fan of that one. And doing some really good damage. Is he actually going to be able to clean up all of these Zorgans? He might end up losing 1 more of the Reapers, but I think he's going to be able to do it. He cleans up almost every single one of the Zorgans. Talk about cost efficiency. Sure, loses 3 of the Reapers, but considering it was at what, 15, like 10 to 15 speed Zorglings get fully surrounding those Reapers multiple times. Really well done over there. And Miniraser, of course, also ends up losing a Queen. A single Reaper still alive can move in to try and scout out the lair timing if he gets an opportunity to move into that natural expansion. And also just scout around, confirm that Miniraser's going for that Ling Bling Muta style once again, not going for the Roach style that some Zerg players do prefer. And at the same time, I want to note that we do have Command Center finished up over here for Clem, ready to take that third expansion whenever he so chooses to. Factory going to be a little bit on the later side, not going for that really fast 1-1-1 opening. So it is going to delay his medevacs, going to delay his ability to get out just Widowmine drops or anything like that. But alright, I think around this time I should finally be unmuted. But I do want to say, you know, Baling Nest is going to be coming on out, as well as the Spire. So Miniraser are going to be teching into this a little bit faster than they did, I think, in game number 2, which is the last game where we saw him take this to the late game stages. And I would say in that last game, yeah, Clem did a really fantastic job of getting up to that very strong, maxed out late game Terran army, but really, he wasn't sitting in the best economic position compared to Miniraser, who had been taking bases left and right, had been sitting up at a 20 worker lead. Yeah, you can always argue about mules and everything, but I really do feel like Miniraser was just in a better economic position, was finishing up his upgrades also a little bit faster than Clem. There were a lot of things just going fairly well for Miniraser in that last game. So if there's one adjustment I would like to see out of Clem, I'd like to see him maybe get a bit more aggressive or make the damage happen a little bit earlier on. He tried to get some of that like Widowmine or, you know, drop harassment happen in the last game, but it didn't quite end up working out for him. This game, I really feel like he's got to make sure he doesn't stay too passive, because we saw that's when Miniraser just kind of gets a little bit greedy, drones up to that money drone count, and just starts taking bases like a madman. Oh man, yeah, there it is in the chat. If people are seeing that I finally got unmuted. I was physically face palming for myself. You guys couldn't see it, but I was. Alright, but here we go. Clem moving across the map, throwing down the scans, killing off an Overlord, and actually supply blocking in Miniraser. There are a couple Overlords just now being spotted or started right now, but that does mean that there's not a lot of reinforcements coming out. Mutalisks are also popping out, so they are going to be able to deal with some of these medevacs, but a really good preemptive split coming out from Clem. He is going to have so much trouble, Miniraser is, moving into this army. This has just been a really fantastic push in so far. The army is stemmed to death, though, and takes a lot of big Baneling hits, moves over to the main base. The Mutalisks not quite in the high enough number to deal with just a handful of these Marines, as Stim is going to be a little bit too scary of a prospect for him, as it seems like he's going to be able to clean this up. The Mutalisks do manage to pick off one of the medevacs. Other Marines trading pretty well, honestly, versus those Banelings. This has definitely been a good trade. This is the kind of damage that I was talking about Clem needs to do. Killing off an expansion, killing off a lot of the Banelings that would disable Miniraser's ability to just go for a big counter swing, and even getting a bit of damage done and some scouting information, keeping that Mutalisks count a little bit on the lower side, killing off the Overlord as well, also denying some of those additional reinforcements coming in. Clem doing a really solid job, and that's going to make his second push in even more effective. He, of course, behind this has been established in that third expansion, as any good Terran player should be doing versus, or behind their kind of light aggression, but also establishing additional barracks. He doesn't have any upgrades going up, though, and that is a one sort of concerning thing that does make me think, okay, look, Clem, you're doing a great job. He has his double engineer base finished up, but if he doesn't start up those upgrades, or no, he has 1-1 finished up. Oh, what am I talking about? 1-1 is finished up. He's sitting okay. But of course, here we go. Bailey's charging on in, getting some good damage done. And it looks like he's going to have enough to clean up all the Widow Mines. Some of the Marines are going to be able to survive, but the reinforcements should be in place very soon. Going to make it much easier for Miniraser to deal with this. Though a lot of the Banelings managed to survive as well, which is sort of the opposite of what you usually see. Usually you end up seeing, okay, engagement happens. Zerglings are the units that end up surviving just because they're the ones that don't have to suicide themselves in. The Banelings get target fired down. But here we go. Baneling's going to be available for this next round. Widowmine shots going off on all the Zerglings. The Banelings once again managed to survive and are going to be able to chase his army a little bit further out. But no, he knows the Widowmine reinforcements are going to be a very scary prospect. Another Widowmine burrowing. It's going to be able to get a good shot off. No. Overseer with the Mutalisks and a good target firing. Does manage to pick it off. Prevents the big Widowmine hit from going off. And I got to say, though, the retention of these Banelings for Miniraser makes it so much harder for Clem to push on in, because he's starting to bleed out a lot of these units. He just doesn't have as much as he would like. Oh, burrowed Zerglings, not burrowed Banelings over here. These burrowed Zerglings. Gonna give a little bit of extra scouting to see exactly when the army charges forward. Here we go. Oh, a really nice Widowmine hit. Going up on all the Zerglings and then the Banelings again. Again, like these Banelings, they add so much to the army for Miniraser, and the fact that he hasn't lost any, but of course, also being able to pick off those Widowmines is so important, because you can see Clem really only has this couple of Widowmines, now finally being the reinforcement units coming in. But not having like this massive number of Widowmines. Oh my god. Banelings exploding at the same time as those burrowed Widowmines, as the Banelings trying to burrow themselves in a very offensive position. Not quite able to do so, but they take a couple of Widowmines down with them. Another scan comes down, he cleans up a bit of this creep. Clem is finally starting to encroach into Miniraser's territory. Miniraser going to start to push him back a little bit further, but that creep is going to start receding. Banelings being burrowed, but no. Clem is on top of it. He saw that. He scans. At the same time, we had some Zerglings trying to get a bit of a run by. I think some of the Banelings may try to explode over there, trying to kill off that bunker, but not quite able to make it work. Big lift up into the medevacs. There's a lot of medevacs available, so hard to guess which one the Marines are in. But it seems like Miniraser is able to push this this advancement in from Clem very far back. He buys himself a lot of breathing space, a lot of room. Of course, that creep is going to start to recede. That's going to make it a bit harder to get those big Zergling and Baneling connections. A bit harder to make sure that his... Oh, Banelings! He has them selected. He's so ready to make this work. Clem has no idea about those Banelings, and this could be a bit of a danger zone. He's also guaranteed to get that singular Widowmine. Oh, Widowmine getting kills off on some of those things. I think he tried to use the one in the Banelings. He tried to manually detonate them to take out the Widowmine before the shot went off, but it was just a couple of split seconds too late. A really cute tactic, though. Trying to deny the Widowmine shot. But again, this is what I was talking about. Now that Clem is here with his army, he can move up over here, and guess what? There's no creep. It's a lot harder to defend over here for Miniraser. He's going to try and make it work. The Mutil's swarming on in, killing off a lot of the Widowmines. But here we go. Liberator is also making it a lot harder for those Mutils to get into good position to snipe off quite as many of those Widowmines. The Widowmine count has also been growing. It hasn't been killed, been slowly whittled away at like it was in the earlier sets of engagements. Baneling's moving on in once again. And this has just been a non-stop push for a very long time. But it's finally starting to pay off. Big Widowmine hit goes off, killing the remaining Banelings that were out on the map. There are 0 Banelings left over. The Mutalists are going to look for an opportunity to try and kill off these Liberators, but it is just not going to be enough. The army for Clem moves on forward, and Clem is going to be able to take the series 2-1. Big congratulations goes out to him. Clem, our Terran player, moves on and is going to face off versus Happy in the qualifying match for this WCS Spring Championship European Qualifier. That is definitely a mouthful, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hopping to a short little break as we get ready to find our next series. You guys are watching, again, coverage from BaseTradeTV. I said this during the break, and it was just something that was being talked in the chat. I made a mention of this after I said it. In the chat, I would like mention it. But of course, if you guys do not like my casting, you are very much free to just mute the stream. There are other streams that are doing coverage and everything. There's even some of the foreign language streams that are sort of overlapping with what I'm covering today. So no offense taken. I'm sitting on 2 hours of sleep. I know that not everything I say is going to be 100% on point. I'm going to be occasionally stumbling over my words. I am also a North American guy normally. I love the European scene also. I love a lot of the players, like Mana's definitely one of my favorite Protoss players. Bunny's definitely up there, Uthermal, etc. Like, I like a lot of the European players, but it's not my area of expertise. So if you don't enjoy my casting, you are free to completely just mute the stream or watch somewhere else, and there's no offense taken. I don't like my own casting a lot of the time. But of course, that is what I will say for that. But ladies and gentlemen, we're hopping into... Oh, we already have our next series. So we are going to be hopping to a really short commercial break as we get ready to hop into the next game. We'll see you guys in the next series, which seems like will be Soul versus Guru, a qualifying match. See you guys there.